Ladies and gentlemen, we are going, and finally we are away after the Steam memed us multiple times, but we're here for Q1, in which technically we're going to have 18 minutes of absolute nothing, so we're going to have to talk about some stuff here, Sam, because I don't know, because ultimately we only have 15 drivers today, which means there are no qualifying one laps here necessary at Suzuka Circuit, but today I'm joined by Sam in the commentary box. Sam, we do see a couple cars coming out, one of the Ferraris and also one of the Mercedes, the sole Mercedes to be participating this Friday.
Yeah, hello. Good to be back in the commentary box in Japan, one of the best tracks on the circuit in my opinion. Lots of interesting corners, very, very high speed corners. The likes of 130R, very famous corner for being incredibly quick. As you said, Q1 not going to be the most interesting session this week, but I'm sure we can talk about something, as you said.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be interested to see how the drivers around here take the S-bends into turn 4, 5, 6, and 7, as we see Svaney coming out of the pits number 25 on the soft mark tyres. Interested that he's elected for the soft tyres despite the lack of a need of a lap, so maybe a reconnaissance lap here, or a sight lap, as some may call it.
Yeah, you know, we've seen different strategies in qualifying. One that comes to mind is obviously Joel with his intermediate run that he likes to do. Whether or not that works is another question, but it works for him, which is the main thing. So yeah, obviously people trying different things, but as you say, I mean, there's really no pressure for Q1 today.
Yeah, I mean, that's great for the likes of the McLaren of Josh and people such as that who, you know, should now, with their sort of standings in the league, be pushing for a Q3 position. We are trying to get the leaderboards working. They do seem to be doing a little bit of a play up, just as Steam was earlier, so we'll see if we can get that working. If not, we will default to the F1 in-game one as per, but yeah, it's going to be interesting here as we see Dylan Hartley looking for a stellar lap. He's obviously, all of the drivers will have to go out and do at least one lap there. The leaderboard deciding to come back on. Max Chapman almost not making it today, so that would have been an interesting qualifying without him. But instead, we do see all of the drivers on the grid. We see now on the grid board, it does actually say Robbie Welsh is up there in P5, but he's actually been replaced quite some time ago by the new driver, Rio Evans. He's in that Renault slot, replacing the absent Robbie Welsh. So be interested to see what he does. But we'll try and get the overlays working once again, because they do seem to be a bit broken today. I'm not too sure, Sam, if you want to go ahead and talk us through what sort of stuff you want to do at Suzuka.
Seems to be one of those days with technical issues, but as you said, we are in Suzuka, a great track full of great rich history, lots of you know, historical events. Some very famous overtakes come to mind going into turn 1. So yeah, Suzuka really is a great track, one of those ones that is full of rich history and also has some great corner names, which is always good. You know, coming to a track the likes of Silverstone, Spa, the ones that have corner names always resonate with me, and Suzuka is one of those.
Yeah, I completely agree with you with that. We're still trying to get these leaderboards working. They're not working.
These leaderboards.
Yeah, these leaderboards, almost as bad as the real Amazon Web Services ones they use in real life. Kenco's retired from the session for one reason or another. I'm not too sure. There's yellow flags here. We're on board with. Oh, that's your. Oh my goodness me! Oh my goodness me! Wow! Oh, how has that happened?
Ian, that was the one thing he didn't need to do this qualifying session. I don't know what's happened to him. He must have crashed out.
We might have to go and get an interview there from him. As a fastest Sector 1, Torben Schutt, we were on board with him, and we saw him dive out the way. We'll go ahead and get a replay on that just now, and wow, how dangerous was that? That crash happened in the middle of the track, so you see, we're trying to get the overlays working. The overlays still not working. We're on board with the Alpha Tauri of, I think that's Jay Robinson. I'm not sure where this happened, so will have to bear with me. It says at the bottom of the screen now, Ian has retired from the session. We then go and try and look out for him. We go with Torben Schutt, who just comes past and narrowly misses him by the barest of margins. Wow, that is crazy.
Yeah, that's great reactions from Torben Schutt, but it sounds like a driver got in the way of Ian and he crashed right into the back of him. So that will obviously be investigated after the session. But that's such a shame for Ian. You know, it was a guaranteed slot into Q2. So it's a shame that's happened to him.
That's certainly not what the man who is spending his first weekend in Kenco F1 wants to hear, that he may be under investigation by the stewards. We'll go ahead and will default to the original F1 leaderboards for now, just purely because they decided to meme us. But there's another yellow flag in Sector 1 for one reason or another. Max has set a fastest time with a 1:26.9. That is 3/10 quicker than Charlie, but remember, he is pushing a lot more than he should be here in qualifying 1.
Yeah, it looks like one of the Alpha Tauris has spun off coming in towards turn 7. You know, the start of the track is an incredibly tricky part of the track. The first sector is one of the trickiest parts, in my opinion. You know, you've got to get that flow through the corners, and it's incredibly hard to get, especially in these conditions. You know, the overcast weather, the track's not quite up to temperature. So no wonder we saw a spin there from the Alpha Tauri of Jay Robinson.
Rio's come across the line, and he's got the slowest time so far with a 4:10 slower than the next person in front. He's gone quite wide into turn 1. But I'm not too sure. Did you get any view on what actually happened there between the incident with the Renault and the Mercedes?
I did not. I have just heard reports of the incident between Ian and I believe it was Rio, or at least one of the Renaults. I really don't know, but Ian was definitely retired in the middle of the track, so definitely something of the sort happened. He must have run into the back of one of the drivers.
We'll take one more look at that incident between those two as we've got 11 minutes left in the qualifying 1 session. So here we go. We see Jay Robinson now coming through the final sector. He was a little bit loose on it, and we were just trying to fix up the leaderboard. Hence the closed desktop there. But yeah, coming across the line, Jay said a pretty respectable lap. But coming into turn 1, we see the bottom of the screen that Ian has retired from the session, so he immediately switches to Solomon Schutt, who we go on board with. And by the barest of margin, just... wow, it is the closest thing you ever see every time you see it. So that is interesting. Joel's come out on those intermediate tyres, he's back in, and now he's on the soft tyres. Interesting strategy, despite not needing to go through in Q1. He still risks well, he takes the risk of going onto the slippery intermediate tyres, even in the dry conditions. So yeah, that's interesting. We're on board with Joel Foxhall now as he comes through the S-bends, one of the most difficult areas to perfect on this track. How can Joel make sure that he gets into qualifying 3 and up into the top flights today?
Well, you know, we've seen Joel in Q3 plenty of times. He's on the soft tyres, as you said. I mean, he doesn't have to push ridiculously hard. He definitely doesn't want to retire in this session. You know, it is pretty much a free ticket into Q2 as long as you don't DNF. So he's just got to be careful. I mean, he's looking very stable in the car at the moment. The car looks good, very planted, which is what he will be wanting around here.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's Joel who's coming out now. He's got green flags in front of him, which does suggest that there may be yellow flags in the sector in front, and there is yellow flags now into Sector 3. I'm not too sure what reason that is, but the greens have been shown, so he does not need to lift. Good stuff there from the marshals to clear that up as soon as possible, but he is on an out lap, so I'm not sure if he's on an out lap or a hot lap. I do believe this is a hot lap, but I think it was quite slow in the first sector anyway, so you wouldn't be too worried about that.
Yeah, it looks like the guys ahead of him were just slowing down a bit to get some heat into their tyres. Obviously, the game doesn't really appreciate that fact, and it just sticks out the yellow flags. But Joe is all fine on his lap, and he's coming around the final corner to the DRS line, and now the finish line, and he goes P4 with a 1:27.6, 7/10 down.
Yeah, decent time there from the Racing Point team, and especially Joel, the Racing Point driver, who's been a bit out of luck with his qualifying lately. He's been struggling to get into Q3 the past couple sessions. Remember last week we were struggling for drivers at the top, and Ben in Russia managed to put it in P2, and Nados managed to get his first ever pole position. So great stuff there from both of those drivers. But regardless, Joel struggling to get into the top 10 shooter. Surely with only 5 drivers to survive into Q2, he'll have no doubt. He will have no problem doing that today.
Yeah, I mean, he's pretty set up in P4. It's pretty close between P4 and P5. 3/100ths between P4 and P5, in fact. So yeah, he's probably safe at the moment. I don't expect any of these guys to really care about Q1, as we keep referring to.
I think the most respectable time on the board so far is Vasim Pro, Andre, who's actually got a 1:27.3, very close to Charlie, just 6 milliseconds off of his time. And, well, to be anywhere near Max or Charlie is pretty much an amazing achievement in the Kenco F1 League. So, yeah, pretty decent for him.
Yeah, I agree. I think in the second half of the league, Andre in the Williams has really come into his own in qualifying. We've seen consistent P3s from the Williams driver, which no doubt he'll be happy with. It's just about the race, really. I mean, he doesn't necessarily stay in these higher top fleet positions in the race. Sometimes maybe making a few too many risks when racing with other drivers. But you know, you can't fault him for his qualifying performances. He's always up there.
Despite the not necessary, well, not a necessary lap here, we see Dylan Hartley on his second hot lap of the session, possibly on the worn soft tyres that he went out on his first session. 127.7 for him so far. He's in the middle sector, and he's done a pretty respectable first sector time there with about a 30-second sector, so pretty decent for him. He now goes into the spoon curve, round through turn 14 and in towards turn 16. As you see, if you look over to your left and your right, you'll see the bridge that actually goes over the track in just 1 second here, as the track goes underneath him, and now he's on the run down towards turn 16 and 17. There's the bridge, and now he's on the run down to the final couple corners through the sector 3 turn. You see there's a lot of runoff there in front of him. If he did want to use that during qualifying, you would invalidate your lap, but that's great. He does come into the pits though, even though he set a pretty decent lap time, so a lot of drivers electing to come into the pits. P6 Archie Middlefeld is still out on a lap on those old soft tyres.
Yeah, potentially these guys using Q1, a bit of a practice session, just getting those laps in, getting your eye in. Obviously, very important. You know, to be on top of your game in qualifying. It's the fastest you're going to be during the whole weekend, no doubt. So yeah, as you said, a few guys just going around on these older soft tyres, just no doubt getting their eye in for the latter sessions.
Just one more try on the leaderboard here. We'll have to see if it works, as Archie does become the only man out on track who is currently on a flying lap. So we'll just make sure this works just whilst we're in a bit of an interim session. But what sort of pace is the drivers looking for in Q2, Q3? Is it a 127 that we're looking for, or are we looking for even faster?
Well, I mean, they're all on the soft tyres at the moment. Max, obviously, in P1, the 126.9. So about the average is about 127 at the moment. Obviously, if they decide to go onto the medium tyres in Q2, no doubt we'll see a bit slower. Just because the compound not as soft, and you know, it's not as fast. I mean, Suzuka is an incredibly quick track. There's incredibly quick corners. You know, turn 1 especially, as Archie Middlefeld goes through there now. You can just see the speed that they carry through all of these corners. So being on the soft tyre is incredibly advantageous. So if they do elect to go onto the mediums in Q2, no doubt we'll see a bit slower. But it all depends how hard these drivers were pushing in Q1, of course.
Alright, I've just done some makeshifting, got the old leaderboard. Seems the 2021 one is not wanting to work, so we've reverted back to the 2020-2019 one, and it is working. We got the leaderboard up and running, so we can see there, Max Chapman at the top of the grid, 126.9, 3 tenths behind him is Torben Schutt, and only 6 thousandths behind him is Andre Abreu down there in P3, his best position so far. Behind him, Alex Rinser, the teammate of the man on pole last week, he's in P4. Joel Foxhall with the P5 position, 727, almost like a flight simmer would say. And behind him, Dylan Hartley with a 752, so maybe some flight sim intonations there, I don't know, maybe just a bit of luck. But either way, those drivers are pretty much solid at the front of the midfield. Alex Rinser with a pretty decent time so far, but he may have gone out on a second set of new soft time, not too sure myself. Svenny Karlstad will get through into Q2. He's been struggling in the Q1 sessions as late, but he's actually going to get through. Obviously, only 5 drivers. Archie Middlefeld promotes himself up to P4 as Joel Foxhall comes out for another hot lap. He's on his out lap currently, just coming out of the pits, but he'll possibly go for another hot lap, or maybe even in. As we see there, P14, Robbie Welsh is actually Rio Evans. He's going to get through on his first ever appearance. Ian Hammore, unfortunately, out because of a collision with him so far, but, you know, 4:10 separating Kevin and Rio. We'll see some fighting at the rear of the grid by the looks of things, won't we?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, they're all going to be competing for Q3 now. That is where they're going to be able to show their pace. You haven't seen that in Q1, with there only being 15 drivers this week. But yeah, Q3 is going to be competitive, I do hope. Sorry, Q2 will be competitive to get into Q3. Joel, as you said, coming out again on these old soft tyres, maybe just getting a bit of practice in, as well as Kevin in the Alfa Romeo down in P13, maybe wanting to improve on his pace slightly.
Just from the telemetry screen, it did look like Kevin may have just taken a spin there through Sector 1. We saw some yellow flags flash, and I immediately switched to all of the drivers, and the only person in the first sector was Kevin. But I'm not sure if it's a spin or if he was just off the track for one reason or another. But he's in the final sector now. He's made it through. No body work is lost so far, and he's ready to go. Yeah,
certainly. I mean, he's in P13 at 130.3. That's 3.5 seconds off the current fastest lap, but really it doesn't matter for him. He's guaranteed to get into Q2. I mean, he's coming back into the pits now. I think that's the right decision. 2 minutes left in the session. Almost all the drivers still in the pits. It's a very unusual sight in Q1.
It is definitely an unusual sight. I mean, Kevin, I'm not too sure about his previous qualifying appearances, if he has actually made it into Q2. I think Kevin's made it into Q2 last week, but I'm not sure previously before that. Obviously, he did only just start a Spa, and already one of the best drivers in the lower midfield. So, well done to him, and obviously the Alfa Romeo garage. They really have something going for both their drivers.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, he had big shoes to fill with Kasimic departing the Alfa Romeo team. But yeah, I mean, he's doing well. Obviously, supporting his teammate Max, which is really, really crucial. I mean, Max is just incredible. I mean, it will soon become that in the championship he will not be able to be beaten. There's 5 races left in the league, which is crazy to think. I mean, we've gone through an incredible amount of races in such a short space of time. Max obviously been incredible all the way through, qualifying especially. I think that is really his forte.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. He's always tense in front, but I think he struggles just a little bit with his race pace, especially in the wet, and that's where Torben Schutt and the Ferrari setups do come alive. Obviously, Ferrari being a subsidiary team, sorry, Alfa Romeo being a subsidiary team of Ferrari, it's interesting that both of them are always fighting up at the top, so it'd be interesting to see what sort of result is at the end. But I think at the moment Casper is down to third because of Torben Schutt. He has overtaken him. Rio there touching the gravel and getting a little bit of a lock there now into turn 10. But regardless, it is interesting at the top of the table, and whatever happens, I think we've had a good season of racing, especially in the midfield.
Yeah, certainly. The midfield's always been really close. I mean, up the front as well, Torben Schutt in that Ferrari's always been there to try and capitalise on Max if he has made a mistake, and he's done that. Spa, I mean, that was an incredible performance into the last corner, got the win. I mean, that was an incredible sight.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's been up there.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I couldn't agree more. Especially, I think it's the true race pace of Max is there, but I think he lacks the maturity and professionalism, and maybe sometimes experience that Torben Schutt has. That's probably the word I'm looking for. Experience. Torben Schutt, obviously, with 6 or 7 years to his senior, so yeah, that's definitely one thing. Kevin O'Mara is now in P14. He got demoted 1 place by Rio now, who is in P13. He's behind Jay Robinson with his pretty respectable performance for his first ever time, but Jay not doing so great.
Yeah, as you said, I mean, Rio in P13, our new driver, and the Renault's gone around 5 laps on these soft tyres, so he's really, really trying. He's got a 130.1 at the moment. Jay Robinson, as you said, in P12 with a 129.6. I mean, that's obviously a bit closer to the front compared to the bottom 2, but I mean, it's going to be close if he wants to get into Q3 today.
A bit of a drift there from Joel coming through the final sector as he crosses the line. That'll be the end of Q1. I think actually Rio has 1 more lap for one reason or another. Everybody else is in the pits, but he's taking it relatively slowly. So that'll be round in just a second. Remember, nobody eliminated from Q1 today. 5 drivers would normally be eliminated. 5 drivers aren't with us today. So that's that. Ian Hanmore, the only retiree today, and the only person not making it through into qualifying too. So, what can we expect from Q2? What sort of strategies do you reckon?
Q2, it's gonna be an interesting one. The only real opportunity we've had so far for these drivers to actually compete against each other in qualifying. There's always that motivation to get into Q3, so no doubt we'll see a few alternate strategies. I think maybe we'll see the mediums, the likes of Max and Charlie, setting them up for the race. We'll see a few soft tire runners if they're really, really keen to get into Q3. I mean, Suzuka, there are chances for overtakes, so qualifying's not the most important, but we shall see.
Yeah, I mean, it does always come down to what you want to do in the end in strategy, and sometimes that can be what wins your race. I mean, when we had both the Ferraris up at the top with Titan and Charlie, we did see that the alternate strategy coming in full force when Casper was at the rear of the grid, or Casper couldn't just make it, and that really put Max into a bad position. We definitely saw that as well last weekend when it came to the actual F1 at Barcelona.
Yeah, certainly. Strategy, incredibly important. So that will be on the forefront of these drivers' minds, no doubt.
A 5-place grid penalty has been issued by the stewards to Rio Evans in the Renault garage, so he will be starting last. Well, provided that he doesn't go into Q3, he will be starting last. Actually, no, even if he does get into Q3, no, if he's 10th or below, he will start last on this weekend. But yeah, interesting stuff there. 5-place grid penalties, that does suggest that he was involved with that incident with Ian.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, there's no other real reason you get a 5-place grid penalty in qualifying unless there is contact between drivers. So, yes, you are correct.
Well, we'll see you in Q2 for some mediums, some softs, a little bit of action. See you later, guys. Ladies and gentlemen, we're back for Q2. A few of the drivers now getting ready in their garage, and it does look like the heavens may be starting to open, so could be a little bit of a wet qualifying towards Q3. What do you reckon, Sam?
Potentially, I mean, we've definitely seen the incredible weather that can be at Suzuka in the past in real life, obviously. And I think the game, it loves to put a bit of rain into the mix. So we shall see. It's definitely very overcast, quite grey as well. So if it does rain, it will definitely switch a few things up. And, you know, that's going to be on these drivers' mind. They're going to want to get a soft tyre run in or whatever tyre they want to go on as soon as possible.
If we look here on the cam here, we've seen everybody except for the driver of Joel Foxhall going out on the mediums. There we see one of the Red Bulls out on the mediums as well as Kevin O'Mara on the soft tyre. So everybody on soft except for a couple of them. So that's interesting strategies here. A bit of an alternate from one of the two of them.
Yeah, obviously they have a bit of an insight to what the weather is on Sunday through the game. So maybe they've seen something there and thought that, you know, soft tyre, if they're going to get that free choice on Sunday, they may as well go for the soft tyre, but I'm not too sure on that one.
We'll see if we can get a word from Ian Hanmore, who is unfortunately not with us in this session because of his DNF in Q1. We'll go ahead and get a word with him in just a second. If we could get him in here, that would be amazing, Sam. But yeah, three drivers now on the medium tyres. We've got Foxhall, Muster, and Alex Rinser. So both the Red Bulls and the Racing Point on the medium tyres were on board with Josh O'Mara, who comes now into the final sector. We'll be coming down the back straight and towards the finishing line. And we'll just get to sort of know what sort of pace, what sort of real pace Josh has around here. He's on his outlap. He'll be the first man out. He was the most eager driver out there, except for Joel Foxhall. He is in front of him by a couple of seconds, but in the box we are joined by Ian Hanmore. Hello, Ian.
Hello.
Well,
I presume you want to talk to me about obviously what happened.
Well, just give us an insight. How was Suzuka with your limited couple of laps?
My limited amount of minutes. Yeah, it was very pleasant on the outlap. Obviously the first one to start the whole lap as well. And into just the start of Sector 3, I was greeted by Rio like the last minute around a corner. Going much slower than I would have expected him to. I didn't really have enough time to react.
Well,
he was obviously just almost stopped in the racing line.
Well, if you look at the TVs that are in the commentary box here, we're going to show you a replay in just a second. Josh O'Mara is on his hot lap, so he's about halfway through that. He's setting a pretty decent time so far. Nothing absolutely amazing from the Irishman, but he'll go there. We'll have a look at this replay now. So we were on board with Jay Robinson. As you can see, we had a little bit of leaderboard issues, but we've managed to fix them now. But yeah, so we're watching Jay. We're trying to get this fixed. He's on the soft tyres. And then out of nowhere, I see a yellow flag in Sector 3 on my screen. At the bottom of the screen, it does just come up saying Ian has retired from the session. So I immediately go onto Charlie, who just misses you narrowly. As you can see, look at that.
Oh.
You're stuck in the middle, and there's Rio there. We can see him there. And yeah, he has received a 5-place grid penalties from the stewards. So yeah, if you want to go ahead and talk us through that incident.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, I was obviously on my hot lap going strong. And then all of a sudden, Sector 3 went around the corner, and then Rio obviously was right ahead of me, and then it was too late to really obviously go around him or slow down. I thought he would maybe move out the way or speed up a little bit, but instead he slowed down, so obviously it was too late. I was in the back of him. But yeah, I mean, a 5-place grid penalty is probably deserved, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, it's his first race, you know, it's probably nerves. I can't win too much.
I mean, it's pretty much tight here in Q2, with Middelfeld currently topping the times. I don't know what that means, Sam. If you could tell me what that means, that'd be amazing. But yeah, I mean, do you think that you could have matched what your teammate did last week and got up into the top couple positions on the grid if you had got through?
That would have been that would be asking for quite a lot on Japan. Not my strong point. It's a good track. It's got a lot of flow to it. But I feel like if you sort of muck up Sector 1, then Sector 2 and Sector 3 will sort of follow suit. But yeah, I mean, obviously, starting P15, I believe, on the race. So
Wow,
yeah,
P14
there's hope.
because of the grid pen.
P14. Yes. Okay. P14. That's a bit
Wow,
better.
that's provided that something happens there. Dylan Hartley now through the. I think that's either Dylan Hartley or Jay Robinson. Wait till he comes round. No, it's Jay Robinson with some wing damage there. How difficult and how punishing is Suzuka if you get it wrong?
Talking to me.
Yes.
Oh, sorry, I'm not used to this commentating stuff. Yeah, I mean, it's quite a difficult one. There's not really sort of many hard-braking areas. Most of it is just carrying speed through corners. If you carry too little, you're going to obviously get really slow lap times, especially in quali. And obviously, if you carry too much, then you're going to spin out and go on the gravel. So it's really about finding that sort of a defined sort of needle, I suppose, of getting your car through the track. But yeah, it's pretty good.
I think that's a quite a good analogy there. Like threading the needle, he says. So yeah, it's pretty
Yes.
good. There we see the Ferrari of Rio getting out. Of Pio getting out of the way. That's going to be confusing. But yeah, I mean, how much are you envying all of these drivers now? They got a free slot into Q2. You had one as well. And just in the matter of one corner, you lost it all. So
Yeah, it was like a golden ticket through to Q2, and yeah, it just blew it. But hey, it is what it is.
it is what it is. Wise words there from Ian. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So only 14 drivers remain in this session now. Only 10 of them can get through. Who will be in the elimination zone? Currently, we have Rio, we have Kevin, Jay, and Andre. Andre, who was P3 in the timing boards last session with 3 millisecond, or with a 6 millisecond delta to the car in front. He could have been P2 in this session. Currently topping the leaderboard is Max Chapman with a 126.7 behind him by 4/10. Max Chapman is Archie Middlefell. He's 377 behind. Behind him is Torben Schutt, who is currently on another outlap. He's looking to get through to Q3, but I'm sure he'll do it with no doubt. Josh O'Mara with his best ever position yet in qualifying, 4th. But remember, he is on the soft tyre, so all of these medium tyre runners now have an opportunity to switch onto the soft and go like Joel Foxall has actually done that. So possibly something that they may want to consider.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, Archie in P2 has got 2 purple sectors, so he's running well at the moment. As you say, 2/10 behind Max, so that's really good pace from him. Josh as well, P4, only about a second down at the moment. I think Charlie may have not had his ideal lap. He's come out again. He's currently behind Joel on the track, so I expect him to go a little bit quicker.
I'm presuming you mean not purple sectors this lap, because Archie's going like 2 miles an hour down the pit straight.
Oh, no. This looks like an in-lap.
Yeah, that makes sense. Torben Schutt on his outlap. He's shifting up pretty early. Some engine wear signs, maybe. We've seen some technical issues from the Williams team, but nothing really from any other teams. But yeah, really early shift-ups from him out of corners, so possibly preventing engine damage. I'm not too sure. You tell me.
Maybe a bit of fuel saving. I mean, you don't want to be carrying any more fuel than you possibly can. So, yeah, maybe short shifting, you know, that prevents you from going up into the higher revs and therefore burning more fuel. So maybe a little bit of a tactic here from Charlie to carry as little fuel as physically possible for his hot lap.
What do you reckon about Q2? Who do you reckon will be eliminated? Who do you reckon will go through to Q3?
Well, I mean, we've got a few surprises. Archie in P2, Josh in P4, Rafael in P5 in the Ferrari. So we've got some good variety in there. I think Joe in P8 possibly set that on the mediums. I could be wrong, so he might be able to go a bit quicker. Obviously, we still haven't got a lap time from Jay or Andre in P13 and P14 at the moment. So we'll have to see what they can do. Obviously, we know that Andre's got quite a bit of pace in that Williams, so I'm looking forward to his lap.
Yeah, he's on his outlap, so no doubt we'll see the true pace of that Williams there. But the reliability of them maybe coming into some sort of issues. We saw them retire a couple of weeks ago with a reliability issue. So that could be a worry for the Williams team. Svaney currently in Q3. Very interpretive track limit there from Torben Schur, who is currently in Sector 2. He's looking for the P1 position. Obviously, no rewards for P1 in Q2, but just to pip Max Chapman, get him a little bit unnerved for Q3. That would be interesting, but he definitely wants to get in front of the Renault in front of him. He's got to gain 3 tenths, which is pretty easy, I would say, for the Ferrari to do. Those front suspension bars running really, really loose today. You can see that front left tire just bopping up and down as if there's no tomorrow. Very, very loose rear end, very, very loose suspension. So what exactly does that mean for the drivers? Jay Robinson goes to P9.
Yeah, beautifully done through Sector 1. As you said, the car looks incredibly loose, and you know what they say, a loose car is a fast car. He's gone purple. Sector 1 and Sector 2 has Charlie, so he's looking very, very strong at the moment. He comes towards the finish line. I'm very intrigued to see where he will place. He goes into P1 with a 126.7, only 1/100th in front of Max.
While 100th in front, it's still in front. And Joel Foxhill with the soft tyres now 5 tenths behind Torben Schur's time. He is up into P4. So Max Chapman will be definitely unnerved for the Q3 session. 11 milliseconds in it between P1 and P2. We could have a fight for pole today, guys.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, Max seems to just keep a little bit in his pocket for Q3. We have seen that time and time again. You know, Charlie gets close to him, but he pulls out a blinder in Q3. But we'll have to see if that's the case this weekend. I mean, just watching these cars go through Suzuka is absolutely incredible. They just look so planted. I mean, it must be a real thrill to drive both in the game and in real life.
A shocker for me is last week's pole sitter, Andre Mustang, down there in P11. He's remaining on the medium tyres. So we've heard you say it before. Is it more of a risk to go on the mediums and judge not getting into Q3, or to stick on the softs and make sure you're in there? That sort of track position versus strategy is sort of what the drivers and the strategists have to play their mind on. Through the Suzuka SEs, he's now up towards turn 8 and turn 9, with the Red Bull again taking a very interesting track limits through there. Obviously, anything that the game doesn't give you a penalty for, we won't penalise unless it is run off. So the drivers are free to do whatever they want, but there is a yellow flag, so he's going to have to lift here through that turn as we do see him. Oh, that's Svaney in the wall. P14 Svaney is in the wall there in Sector 2, but there's a green flag. That means he can plant his foot back down. That's going to really affect the pole sitter, or the previous pole sitter's lap. He's now in P12, 2.6 seconds, 2.5 to gain towards P1, but realistically only 1 second needed to be absolutely definitely safe here in Q2. There is another green flag suggesting another yellow flag in Sector 3, so there's the yellow flag. He's going to have to lift. He's been absolutely cursed by yellow flags here. The Red Bull drivers. We now come into the final couple turns. It is Kevin O'Mara coming into the pits with a yellow flag, a green flag now into the final sector, but having to lift that Red Bull driver. We will get P10. That is definitely a cause of those flags.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, he's the only driver out on track at the moment on mediums. Looking at the weather forecast for the race, it looks fairly dry. I mean, you know, it's always unpredictable. There can be a bit of rain, but he's really got to weigh up now whether he wants to commit to these medium tyres or he goes onto the softs. I mean, if he gets... Oh, he's gone a bit wide there. If he gets into Q3 on these mediums, he could be really, really quids in. But with everybody else out on track on softs, it's going to be incredibly hard to achieve that.
Yeah, I mean, he can do it because he's in P10 currently. But, I mean, he could go even faster. We saw him have to lift through twice lifting under yellow flag conditions. Remember, if a driver is shown a yellow flag, they must lift. If they do not, they receive either a lap deletion or a grid penalty if it comes to that. So we're on board with Rio, who has actually gone just a little bit wide through the Suzuka S. It's so tricky for them to do, but so flowing.
Yeah, certainly. And if you get any of these small little corners wrong, it really, really affects your whole lap. It's all about momentum coming through the first sector, and if you don't have that, then your whole lap is pretty much screwed, I hate to say. But yeah, I think he's on an in lap or an out lap or something like that. He's going very, very slow at the moment. Is Rio in P11?
If I were him, I would get off the racing line because he's already messed one person race through here. He's going to get the dirty air of, I think that maybe Rinter behind. He has led him round, so that's pretty good. But yeah, he's going to be, I don't know if there's any point trying. You've got to sort of get into Q3. If you don't get into Q3, then there's no point trying with that 5-place grid penalty.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about... Yeah, he's got to weigh up what he wants. I mean, if he gets into Q3, it knocks out one of his rivals, so puts them in a worse position. I mean, it all depends how the driver and the team go about this. So he's in P11 at the moment, so he's not in Q3 as of yet. But yeah, if they really, really, really want to push for Q3 and get one of his rivals out, then that's what they'll do. But he's got a little bit of time to make up as of yet.
Well, he's coming through the final couple of turns. We'll see. He's realistically got one more shot and he's into the pit, so he will be sustaining that penalty. 40 seconds is not enough time to get around, so he will be plumb last in this race. Unfortunately for him, in his first ever appearance, he will be plumb last.
Yeah, that's a shame. Obviously, you know, that's a lesson learned for him, though. You don't want to be stopping on that racing line. It causes huge incidents, as we saw. You know, Ian, it was almost a free, as he said, golden ticket into Q2 today. And just because of that little incident, he is not able to compete.
Yeah, and we're now on board with Robinson, the only realistic person that could get through unless Svaney does make it to the line, which would be interesting. He's got 13 seconds to do so, but Jay Robinson through the final sector, that isn't going to happen. We see him following Jay. Jay is on a hot lap. He's trying to get the toe of Jay. That isn't happening. 10 seconds to go. We've only only 4 drivers eliminated, sorry, today. There is the checkered flag. We'll now see Jay Robinson come through the final sector. He has to improve. If he does not improve, he cannot go through. Svaney is not through. He is out. Kevin is out. And Andre is out, as well as Rio, who will be in P15. So your running order of the last 5 will be Rio, then Ian, and then it'll be Svaney, Kevin, and Andre. Andre, last week's pole sitter, is now in Q2. Eliminated. Wow.
Yeah, that was a good little lap there from Jay Robinson getting into Q3. Knocked out Nados, as you said, in the Red Bull. So I'm sure he'll be very happy with that. I mean, Nados also might be slightly happy being in P11, you know, just outside the points and also having that free tyre choice. It could play into his hands. He's got to obviously have some good race pace on Sunday, though, for that strategy to work out.
I mean, you tell me, how is it that one week someone can be waiting for pole and the next week they can be P11?
Yeah, I mean, it is a bit of a shock for him, but it's all about driving style. Russia, obviously, incredibly different to that of Suzuka. As we keep saying, Suzuka, incredibly quick, incredibly flowing, especially the first sector. Russia, not so much. You know, there's lots of much more slower speed corners. Obviously, not the best for overtaking, partly because of that. So, yeah, it's obviously a completely different track, and obviously, Russia really suited to Andre's driving style, and Suzuka, not so much.
We've just got a message in from the McLaren garage. Josh91011 has said Q 3,333,333. I think he meant Q3, but yeah, first ever Q3 appearance for Josh. Well done to him in P7.
Yeah, that's a nice job there from Josh in the McLaren. Obviously, his teammate not with him this weekend, but he may be back for the race. He has corrected you. I thought he would do that. It's his second time into Q3. So I'm sure we'll be very happy with that.
Nah, he's robbing a living. He never got in the first time. We don't know about that, but no, Josh in Q3, P7 as well. No, not P9, not P10, P7. So fair enough to him. Just behind Dylan Hartley, previous race winner. So good job to him in Q3. That is really interesting. Why aren't his messages showing on the thing? Because he's been banned, that's why. Just kidding. But now we're into Q3, ladies and gentlemen, and we see some drivers coming out, a little bit of action in the pit lane. The first man out on track is the man who we expect to see on pole, but his challenger carrying the rear of this pack now coming out towards the exit of the pit lane is Torben Schutt. We see both the Ferraris now coming out in tandem along with the sole Renault in this competition in Q3. So yeah, interesting Q3 session to come.
Yeah, our first full qualifying session as well, so it's great to see Q3 fully packed, 10 drivers all fighting for position. You want to get as close to the front as possible, of course, in Q3. It's not about strategy, it's all about raw pace. Hopefully, we will see the quickest lap times we've seen in qualifying thus far. Max, obviously, as you said, first out on track. He's really punching the hole through the air for these guys behind him. It's interesting that he's decided to come out first.
Now, Sam, I'm gonna get very philosophical.
Oh gosh, here we go.
Right, so hear me out. There's 10 drivers in Q3, right?
Yep.
So, depending on the position in Q3, you could award them each a point for the position in Q3, and then that would like sort of incentivize a faster qualifying rather than I don't know. I assume that's the whole reason of the sprint race that is coming into F1. We've now been confirmed to be at Silverstone, but what I was just thinking is if we kept the current format and Q3 you actually incentivized, I don't know if that just makes it more I don't know, more one-sided towards a faster car, or I think it'd be quite interesting because you'd see a lot more cars pushing a lot harder on a Saturday.
Yeah, I mean you're correct. I mean, the sprint qualifying or sprint race, whatever you want to call it, is sort of that. I mean, it's obviously not the current layout we have in terms of Q1, Q2, Q3. That will be reserved for Friday, but on Saturday, as you said, we'll have the sprint race, and you will get points, obviously, for being P1, 2, and 3. Not many points.
Yeah, it's 3 points for
but you get some
P1,
points.
3 points for P1, 2 points for P2, and 1 point for P3. But I'm just thinking, like, if I don't know, just philosophically or hypothetically, should I say, P1 through 10 got a point corresponding to their position. So P1 would be 10 points, 2 would be 9, 3 would be 8, and etc. and etc.
Yeah.
But I think personally, that would just make things more interesting on a Saturday, because currently it's just go for it, and strategy is more important. We Dylan Hartley with a massive snap of oversteer there through the Suzuka Rest is there, but manages to catch it very well. But yeah, as I was saying, I don't know, how would you see that, and what's your sort of opinion on the sprint races as it is now?
Yeah, I mean, I see where you're coming from. You know, I absolutely love the current format in terms of qualifying, in that, you know, you got Q1, all 20 drivers competing, and then Q2, 15, and Q3, 10. And, you know, if you get into Q3, that's really prestigious. You are one of the 10 fastest on the track. So I think, you know, the build up into Q3 is really, really exciting. I do like the current qualifying format. I think, you know, there's no harm in trying anything. Sprint races, you know, it works in Formula 2 pretty well. You've got some great action in Formula 2, but, you know, Formula 1 and Formula 2 are very, very different categories. You've got Formula 1, you know, the best people, the best drivers competing at the top of their game. Are they really going to be wanting to mess around with, you know, the potential 3 points in the sprint race? I really don't know, but we will have to see. I mean, there's no harm in trying, and you know, it'll be exciting the first few times it happens.
Well, you've also got to remember, Formula 2 is a spec series, so all of the cars are the same, but then you get to Formula 1, each car has a different performance, so then again, are you just punishing the worst cars even more? So like the Hasses and the Williams, or...
Yeah, exactly, and you know, you've got to put into perspective the monetary aspect of it. It's incredibly expensive to run these Formula 1 cars, and you know, that's just going to put extra pressure on these smaller teams, especially during COVID times. But you know, I think it'll be exciting. Good to change things up. There's obviously a few issues in Formula 1 in terms of racing. Don't think the sprint qualifying is necessarily going to fix that, and I definitely don't think that Formula 1 should be targeting it in that they think that young people think that 2-hour races are too long and too boring. I definitely think that's an incredibly bad take. But yeah, I think it's going to be interesting nonetheless.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was very insightful from you, so thank you for that, Sam. But we're on board with Dylan Hartley, coming now through Sector 3. He's had a 1 lap so far, with a 6/10 slower lap than Max Chapman, who currently sits in the provisional pole slot. He comes towards the final couple corners. He does look like he may be on an in-lap, so he'll be coming in. Josh O'Mara, second time in Q3. He's P9 currently. Yes, Dylan Hartley does come into the pits. Jay Robinson also in the pits. Josh O'Mara on his hot lap, if you want to go talk us through that, Sam.
Yeah, once again on another hot lap is Josh. You know, the first sector, we're talking about this so much, a great sector. It's incredibly fun to drive, coming through turn 5 and turn 6. Turn 6 is a tricky corner, you know, you've got to get back on the power as early as possible, but it's incredibly easy to spin. Turn 7, nicely done at the moment for Josh in the McLaren, and you know, this corner, turn 8, it's incredibly fun. You know, you can carry so much speed through it. You can really extend the track limit, especially on the F1 game as we approach the hairpin. You know, you've got to Use the curb to your advantage. Take the tightest line possible. That's going to be the quickest through the corner. He's looking good in the McLaren is Josh, as you said, Q3 for the second time. Turn 12 now is an easily flat corner for these guys in the 2020 spec cars as we approach Spoon Curve, also another tricky corner, easy to spin those rear tyres, but he got on the power nice and early down the straight now, heading towards 130 on one of the most prestigious corners, but he's backed off. I'm not too sure why, obviously not fast enough his liking.
He's run out of fuel. Oh, Josh, what are you doing? You're making a fool of yourself in Q3, unfortunately, there for him. We got a few cars out on track. Max Chapman looking to better his time. Will he be affected? No, he's not. He's in P1 in Sector 1. So he's going to be going through a lap now. And how can Max Chapman, someone who realistically is the benchmark, how can he better himself and become even better than the rest?
I mean, we've seen it time and time again. Max, you know, he has incredible pace in Q3. He's looking good at the moment. Obviously, 2/10, nearly 3/10 ahead of Charlie as of yet. Charlie also out back on track though. Obviously, going to be aiming to beat Max. It looks like Max has a much faster outlap. He's obviously trying to get those tyres warmed up as soon as possible. Obviously, we saw Charlie, as you said earlier, you know, short shifting, not trying to use as much fuel. You know, he's obviously running incredibly low on fuel when he's not trying to burn too much on his outlap. So obviously, two different strategies on their outlaps, but it seems to be working well for Max.
I thought it was in top lap. No?
I think this is his out.
It doesn't say on my screen that it's his outlap, but I don't know. It's
potentially.
It's the leaderboard, so if it is his outlap, then I wouldn't be too surprised with it being broken. But coming into the final sector, yeah, very quick outlap if that was the case. But he's not coming into the pit, so it does look like he will be starting his hot lap now.
Indeed, this could be the one that gets him pole position today. He's obviously still on pole position at the moment. A few yellow flags out there as we got a retiree, in fact, Archie Minifer, P7.
That's unfortunate for him. He'll retain his position if he can get that car into the grid somewhere. I'm not too sure where he has lost it. We'll go on board with, pardon me, Max. Yeah, he's lost it into the wall there. Unfortunately, I think we'll go on board with Josh, who's just coming behind. Yeah, it's F1 2020, so the stewards have cleaned that up in 2 seconds. But, yeah, I don't know. Has he just dropped the throttle through there, gone onto the gravel, or not too sure?
Yeah,
but 126.
I mean, as we said,
126.5 is what Max Chapman has to beat. Will those yellow flags alter him?
Potentially. I mean, he was definitely in the sector when Archie had spun. It didn't look like it was affecting him too badly, though. Obviously, as you said, he was off the track and the stewards managed to collect his car incredibly quickly. Max is still retaining fastest sector 1, 2 and 3, so he's looking good for that pole position today.
Well, to me, it looks like he's backed out. He's got his recharge lights on the rear of his car blinking, so yeah, no pushing here from Max. Possibly 2 outlaps because of that yellow flag. Maybe he thought, I don't know, there's a yellow flag, I'm not going to waste my resources, go again. But then you're on 2 lap-old tyres, so then you're giving an advantage away to Torben Schutt behind, who is on his current hot lap. We'll go ahead and view him, but yeah, I'm not too sure what the reasoning is there behind that Alfa Romeo driver.
I really don't know. I mean, maybe going for the double out lap. Not too sure how much of an advantage that would be on the game. But also, Charlie has also backed out of his lap. Maybe he's heard that information from his team and he's also backed out. Is he going to go again? He does. He's going for another flying lap, is Charlie. So maybe they're trying the double out lap. Obviously, we've seen that in real life Formula 1, especially in Portimao, but I haven't seen that done in the league thus far.
That is very interesting. Now, with the panning camera through the first couple of corners, you see just how much these Formula 1 cars flex as they go through that corner. So long of a corner to sustain at such a quick speed here. But Charlie will realise there's only 1:37 left in this session. He's got a Hublot sponsor on his car, a Hublot on his wrist, another yellow flag in Sector 1, but that's behind him, so Charlie will not have to lift. He'll be fine, but he's got a Hublot on his wrist, so he knows he's got 1 minute to get to the line if he just want to go one more time. He's got 2 tenths to gain, and Max in front of him looks to be gaining even more time. So Max is Charlie's basically got to push for his life. Behind him, Alex Sorrento with his best ever position in qualifying so far, P3. He could be provisionally in the second row of the grid currently. At the moment, behind them is Andre Aubry. He's got 4 tenths to the car in front, and behind them, Joel Foxall, who's currently on his outlap, risking it, going for a very late last lap. Dylan Hartley with 6 tenths from the leader. Behind them, Archie Minifer, who we saw into the barrier in turn 1. Charlie's teammate now in P8, Rafael Pio, and behind him, Josh O'Mara in P9. Dylan Hartley deciding to come in. He does not want to improve his lap time any much longer. Everybody else out on track. Max Chapman now comes towards the line. We'll see what sort of time he sets. Will it be greater than 3/10 of the car behind as he comes across the line? It doesn't look like he's improved. Torben Schutt with 500 to the car in front. So Max Chapman is on provisional pole. We'll be watching Alex Rins as he comes across the line. He has not improved. Andre Abreu now. It will be the next to come that may beat Max Chapman to pole. He's got 4/10 to gain. So tight with the top three.
Yeah, I mean, Torben Schutt got the fastest purple sector 1. I thought he was set for it, but his sector 2 wasn't quite as quick. And in fact, Alex Rintzer for a certain amount of time had the fastest sector 1, as Andre Abreu also goes fastest in sector 2. So it's incredibly close at the front.
We'll see now as he comes through the final couple corners. The checkered flag is waved for qualifying 3. Snap of oversteer there through the final couple corners means that Andre Abreu may not get pole. He is P4. He is P4. He retains his position and gains a 10th or so. Joel Foxall now comes across the line. He's coming into the final sector. He is the next man who can possibly dethrone Max Chapman. At the moment, Max Chapman is on provisional pole. Behind him, Torben Schutt by 500ths of a second. And behind them, Alex Rintzer with his best ever start. Just, 125 behind. Rafael in the other Ferrari. Can he put it on pole? Can Jay put it on pole? Can Joel put it on pole? We see... because it rhymes, because it's true. Will Joel go across Max Chapman? Oh, there's a huge snap there. I don't know how he's not lost his wing there. Into the final corner, Joel's just lost it. Max Chapman actually went and improved his lap by 5/10 of a second. I'm not sure. He went for 2 hot laps consecutively. And well done to him. I mean, ridiculous time to improve on there. Max Chapman on pole position.
Once again, Max in pole by 5/10. I mean, to make that up on 3 lap old tyres, a great job from Max once again.
I would argue 4 because of the 2 outlaps, but yeah, ridiculous. Absolutely crazy stuff.
Yeah, once again, a masterclass from Max. Charlie looks very, very close, being only 5/100ths behind, but Max put that to a stop.
He definitely puts the... Oh my god, that was close. He definitely puts the ace in pace, if you know what I mean, Max Chapman. Obviously, topping the session every week. Well done to him. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is your Q3 session. The drivers eliminated being, well, not eliminated, it's Q3, so they won't get eliminated, but your pole position today is Max Chapman, and we'll go ahead and make sure to see what he is feeling now. I mean, what an incredible pace from him today. He looked like he may have been challenged there in the end, but I don't think he was. 5/10 to gain on your final lap. How good of a driver. Like we just said, Max, you put the ace in pace.
Yeah, it was a wonderful lap. Every corner, every apex, every brake zone I made, to be honest. Just everything together, everything perfect.
It was a crazy lap. We weren't even spectating you because we thought 4 lap all tyres. No, he won't go again. So it'll be 500ths between you and Charlie. But you went around with 4/100ths of a 5/10ths of a second. Oh my goodness, so much more pace. I just can't say it. 5/10ths of a second you managed to gain that final lap. Were you scared at all when you saw Charlie behind?
In Q2, when I saw he jumped me on times, I was like, I need to step up my game a little bit. I need to take more speed into corners and stuff like that. So I took a wider line into some corners, and it gave me a better exit off some of them. And I just generally nailed the lap, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty good lap. 126.1. Have you ever had that fast before?
No. I think it just, I don't know where it came from, to be honest. It just came out of nowhere.
Yeah, it was a pretty crazy lap. So yeah, well,
especially on the old softs as well. I think the worn tires helped a little bit. I don't know, to be honest, but
well, you're starting on
still.
softs on Sunday. How will that affect your race strategy?
If people on the mediums start the mediums will have a bit of advantage later on into the soft stint, because the softs will wear out very quickly. But when we pit for the if soft hard is the strategy, when we pit for the hards, we should have less tire wear at the end, but be further up on track.
Yeah, I think track position is probably more advantageous. Sam.
Yeah, I mean, good job as always, Max. Do you think you convert this into another one of your victories?
Yeah, hopefully. Just need to focus on the start. My little bit of a worry, 'cause I hate starts at the moment, but yeah,
Yep.
other than that, good quality.
Yeah, great job.
Yeah, well done. Well, that
Thank
was your
you.
that was your pulse, so ladies and gentlemen. Max Chapman, he'll be starting front and center on the grid in this 71st anniversary weekend, and make sure you stay tuned for for Sunday, because wow, what a race we have in store, and it might be a little surprise for you guys, but you'll see on Sunday. So make sure you come join us and have a wonderful time on Saturday, and enjoy everything to do with the I was going to say the real F1, but that's not this weekend. Enjoy having your couple of days off, if you have them off, of course. I don't know what I'm saying. I'm just rambling now. We'll see you on Sunday, guys.
Take a seat.